Now, what happens when you get to your campsite and you don't feel like making a big fire and waiting for the coals so you can cook? You're hungry, you want something quickly. Well, there's something called a twig fire, but there's certain rules if you want to try cooking on a twig fire, and one of them stems from paella Valencia, which is the national rice dish of Spain, and that is cooked on an open fire. The history, and in a paella pan. Yeah, this is my little one here. This is an individual one. I love it. I've got two, one for me and one for my husband. Paella is a farmer's dish. You have the whole family out in the fields harvesting rice. And in the morning, they would put a trap out for a rabbit. And when they're ready to have lunch, they would use the paella pan. They'd make a twig fire, and they'd cook the rabbit quickly in the pan with some olive oil and with some onions and whatever they might happen to find about. And also they would use snails. They would pick snails that feed on rosemary. So these snails actually tasted like rosemary. And they would use whatever vegetables were growing wild. And they didn't have much time. They didn't have time to have coals. So they'd make a twig fire. They'd start cooking everything very quickly in a paella pan like this. Now, let's make a paella with products you can find readily in a supermarket and things that are quick. How about this? Already cooked rice. You can find all kinds, Spanish, cilantro, all sorts of flavored rices. Already cooked. All you have to do is heat it up or microwave it, which we don't have here, obviously. There's also things like this. It comes in, how about quinoa? This is a red and white quinoa. Couscous is a good one too. All of these things cook very, very quickly. In fact, with these two, you just have to heat them up. So I have here some already cooked smoked Atlantic salmon. And I've done this with fresh salmon. I'm going to show you what my fresh salmon looks like later. Now, this particular dish, I'm going to use rice. I'm going to use some already cooked smoked salmon. And I'll tell you, this way of cooking is great with leftovers. I have some leftover Swiss chard from the garden already cooked up. And I have some spices, some olive oil, and I have some chicken stock. The first thing you have to do is collect twigs. Now, that's sometimes not always easy when you're camping. In fact, this particular campground is so clean and neat, I had a hard time finding twigs, but I think I got enough. I've got my paella pan. I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil in there, and I'm going to dump in some of the already cooked rice. How hungry are we? Okay, not all of it, just some of it. And in order for this to actually warm up and cook, we're going to add a little bit of water or chicken stock. I have some chicken stock here. So you kind of want to do, if you were doing couscous, you're going to add the right amount of water. That's fine. This will just boil down. So I've got olive oil. I've got some water in there. You want to put everything together before you stick it on that fire because you're not going to be able to get to that fire. It is hot and it's going to be licking around the paella pan, which in turn makes the dish taste very smoky. And that's one of the nice things about cooking in a paella pan on a twig fire. Not in an oven, no, on a twig fire, the way it should be. So I'm mixing all this up with my Swiss chard. And I'm probably going to add some spice. I think I'm going to add my West Indies spice rub. This is a mixture. You can add curry, you can add herbes de Provence. I'm going to add a little bit of this just for some flavor. And think about what you have in the refrigerator. You might have some leftover roast chicken. Perfect on top. And we're going to go ahead and take our salmon, which is already cooked and it is smoked. And we're going to put some of that on top. And I got to get this on that fire. There we go. All set. One thing that's important about building the fire is you're going to need stones or some logs to hold your pan up because these twig fires, the twigs will burn down and collapse and there goes your paella, which has happened to me before. So here we have our rice, we have our Swiss chard, we have some salmon that's already cooked, and I'm going to lean over without my big, tall, long, these things, and get this on the fire. Success so far. There we we go. So what's really nice, see all this smoke happening? So what's gonna happen is the liquid in there is gonna cook down, everything's gonna get nice and hot, and then it'll start to fry a little bit. Remember I put some olive oil in the pan? And that frying is gonna create the rice or the couscous or lentils or the quinoa or whatever you have in there to start to crisp up. And it's called the socarrat, and that's the best part of a paella. How long is this gonna take? 4 minutes? And you see the way the flames are licking around the pan? That's how you get that wonderful smoky flavor in there. This is coming along really nicely. I can hear it crackling. In other words, the liquid has evaporated out and now it's beginning to fry. And we have all that lovely smoke. I can test it with just the edge of this to see whether or not it's sticking. You want it to stick a little bit. And basically by the time the twig fire dies down, hey, it's done. So am I. This is really good. It's perfect. It's got nice crispy rice on it. Everything's nice and hot. Everything's cooked because everything was already cooked when I put it in. So this is a great way of cooking leftovers when you're camping and you want dinner fast. You don't want to build coals. Get a twig fire. Get a little paella pan. You can get big ones. I've got some big ones which I fed like 10, 12 people with. But this is a single serving and this one is all mine. One last thing, how to clean this pan. Well, you don't want to use detergent on it. You basically just put some water in it, let it sit if there's things sticking on it, and then just wipe it out. You can add a little olive oil in it. If you have bacon fat, that'll work too. Depends what you're cooking it. You just wipe it out. You don't have to wash it. You gotta have that thin film on it. Here we go, that's it.
Shall we set the table?
Table? What? We're gonna eat this? We're gonna eat this slop? This is our appetizer.
It's time to get out the chili.
Well, what's nice about the chilies, I just have to heat it up in the van and we can just sit there with a bowl of it so it can be dark.
That'll be our dessert.
That'll be our, no, I can have apples. I made apples. I can fry apples for dessert.
Okay, well what will that be? This is our appetizer, that'll be our dinner.
Right, and then apples will be the dessert.
It's a 3-course dinner. Then we'll pass out.